To discuss the ongoing talks and the position of some of the world powers, I'm now joined live from Strasbourg by Robert Harneis, who's a journalist and a political analyst. Mr. Harneis, France seems to be the most skeptical of the negotiations and negotiating nations about the outcome of the talks. What's behind all the skepticism?
Well, it's always a little difficult to understand the position of the French here. They seem to take an extreme position all the time, and there are a number of reasons for this. The first is that they are playing good cop, bad cop with the Americans. Obama is suddenly being much more reasonable in his attitude with the Iranians, and the French are out there on the flank saying, oh, you mustn't agree too easily, Israel must be protected, and so on. And in a sense, that's, if you like, playing the game of the Americans so that they can sound more reasonable, the French sound more unreasonable. There is another factor, which is that everybody knows the enormous pressure of the Israel lobby in America. It's not quite so well known that it's pretty considerable in France as well.
So would you say that is the reason why the French foreign minister said that Israel's position must be taken into consideration, which is France showing a little bit of concern there for Israel? Why? I mean, even Washington called Netanyahu's condemnation of the deal premature.
Well, yes, it's interesting, isn't it, that Mr. Netanyahu said that the deal had been concluded. Everybody else is saying it hasn't. At any rate, the position of the French, I think, is pretty clearly to say things that the Americans don't want to say at the moment. I think that's at the bottom of it, because, frankly, this posturing by the French president and the French foreign minister makes France look pretty ridiculous on the domestic front. There's a great deal of mockery of Laurent Fabius and his very aggressive statements internally in France.
We're used to the U.S. being the one that's the harshest opponent of Tehran. Now, do you feel that Washington's stance is generally changing?
Well, one would like to hope, let's put it this way, that this is a real diplomatic revolution. The Americans, ever since 1979, when the embassy drama took place in Iran and the Shah was kicked out and all the rest of it, have had this slightly ridiculous, slightly vengeful obsession about dealing with the Iranian nuclear threat. There isn't, as far as anybody can tell, and as far as the American security services themselves say, there is no Iranian nuclear threat. The Israelis, on the other hand, have 300 nuclear weapons, so the whole situation is a trifle absurd, as it often is with Western foreign policies. And there are signs that Obama is trying to put American foreign policy on a more sensible track. Why not have sensible relations with Iran, it is being asked in the United States. After all, for years, with the threat of the Soviet Union, they had no difficulty negotiating with Gorbachev and men a lot more difficult than him. So why can't we negotiate with the Iranians? Why do we have to take this ridiculous attitude that they can't have what France, what Britain, what the United States has, which is nuclear protection? And the Iranians are saying they don't want it anyway. So, you know, it's a difficult one to quite work out, but it could be that there's a real revolution taking place, and the Americans are going to change their stance because they need to do business with Iran, really.
So finally, what are your predictions? Will the sides involved manage to overcome their disagreements and strike a deal in the near future?
Well, if I had to put my reputation as a prophet on the line, I would say that there is going to be a deal, because they are, after all, talking about only about a 6-month deal, as far as we can understand it, a suspended sentence, so to speak. And with the problems of gas pipelines across from Iran to Europe, which Europe needs badly for its Nabucco pipeline, which has no gas without the Iranians, I think there's a very strong probability. And they just love to get in there and have all the contracts for rebuilding Iran. Yeah. So Robert, I hope it's a real revolution.
Robert Harneis, a Strasbourg-based journalist and political analyst, live from France with us here.